guys, and welcome to today's video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different than the normal stuff that I put out, which I don't really know if I have like a theme to my channel. Today's video is actually going to be more of a sit down and chat with me kind of video. We're going to focus on today is the label of lesbian and my coming out story and just basically my processes and maybe some advice that I could give to you guys through everything that I learned through my journey. Let's start off with the inspiration for this video, which was a Facebook post that I wrote, and it just really got me thinking into that mindset. I have my laptop here and I'm just going to read to you my little post, and then I'm going to talk to you I'm going to then talk to you guys about my mindset and just little, my coming out story, if you will. So yeah, let's just talk about the Facebook post that inspired this this video. So a year ago, using the label of lesbian never sat well with me. It was such an objectifying word, so I would just call myself gay. Now that I've had so much more time to grow and learn about myself, I'm more than proud to take that label, because it's so much more than my sexuality. It is it's a definition of the long and hard journey that I took in self-love and acceptance. It is a proven point that I got through some of the hardest and confusing feelings in my life. I made it out alive when I thought that I was a mistake and that God would never love me. So heck yeah, I'm a lesbian. I'm a strong, independent woman who loves other strong, independent women. And I'm so excited to live the rest of my life feel like the girl boss that I am. To the other lesbians reading this, you should never feel ashamed of that label. You are strong and beautiful. Let those colors shine. I always find it difficult to tell people my coming out story because it's so complicated, and I was brought up in a household where that those words and that community, if you will, was never explained to me, because I lived a very, very sheltered life, and my parents' viewpoints on that were to just not talk to me about it till I asked questions because they didn't agree with it. And so that made a lot of my feelings very hard and confusing as a kid all my life. I just remember little things feeling weird to me, and different, and friendships feeling different with girls, and relationships with girls feeling different, and just not really understanding what that meant to me, and these feelings just made no sense to me, and it was really confusing, and this was all before I even knew what that was a thing and what that was, and then I remember this moment in my coming out experience was probably one of the biggest light bulb moments, if you will, for me, and that was laying in bed with my mother, and we were watching Ellen DeGeneres, and Ellen is openly gay and openly lesbian, and she was talking about her wife, Portia. She said, "My wife, Portia." I don't remember exactly what she was talking about or anything of that sense. All I remember is her making a statement of her wife, Portia. It's like, oh, so I turned to my mom, and it was like, oh, wife, like that. I didn't know girls could marry girls. Like, I didn't know that was a thing at all. And so I turned to my mom. I was like, she has a wife? And then my mom was like, yeah. And I was like, she can have a wife. Like, girls marry girls. And she was like, yeah, I know. It's disgusting, right? So that was a lot of suppressing and like, oh, so my feelings are wrong. So that was my first implication of, I felt weird and different, and then I felt a glimmer of hope and, oh, this makes sense now, to, oh, suppress. And I'm not blaming my mom for that at all, and and honestly, she's a wonderful mother, and I don't have any problem with the way that she raised me, and honestly, she just wasn't educated in that, and she didn't realize what the heck was going through my brain, and I'm sure it would be a different I think it would be a different conversation for her if she knew what the heck was going on in my brain. And, you know, flash forward, there were always things. I remember always having one best friend that was a girl that I guess you could say, be in love with. I mean, they were just my best friend, and I would look up to them, and I just loved them on a different level, and it's kind of hard to explain. And then we get into the very confusing relationship that I had with one of my very close friends, who was one of those friends who I had just a different relationship with, which was more of close relationship. I loved her more than just a friend, and I didn't understand any of these feelings, but being in a friendship relationship with, she was so straight, and I was so deep back in that closet, so I didn't know any of this, but you know, just I remember she being in a relationship with her were the biggest moments where I would start to think, am I gay? But then I would be like, no, suppress. So it was more suppressing of those feelings. And, yeah, so, those little clicks that I would have, I would never allow myself to fully think, because it, like, just stems back to what my mom taught me, was that it was wrong. So I was like, suppress. So that's just automatically what I went to, and it was so freaking confusing. And I remember growing up and, like, feeling so terrified because all my friends would have crushes on guys. And I remember always being like, what the even heck? I don't like guys. This isn't normal. I need to have a crush on a guy. And so I would find a male, like, physically attractive. Like, I would say, like, yeah, he's got a handsome face, which anyone can say that about a man, whether you're sexually attracted to them or not. And so I thought that meant I had a crush on them. So I would use that to my full force, and I would just run with it, and I would just be straight. And, you know, that was something that gave me a lot of comfort for a long time, but obviously it didn't work out. Eventually, that friendship came along, and things started to kind of click in my brain, but again, suppressing them. And then finally the friendship ended, and that is when I dealt with probably the biggest, hardest heartbreak ever, and I consider it a heartbreak because I was in love with this friend. I was in love with my best friend, and I was deeply in the closet, and so the way that I handled this ending of a friendship was more like you would handle the ending of a relationship, a romantic relationship, and you know, so I am not going to get into the argument or how the friendship ended. All you need to know is that I dealt with it like a breakup, and it was really hard for me, and I remember just feeling really empty, and like, you know, you lost the other part of you, and it was like I had such a strong feelings for this girl, and it just didn't work out, you know, and our friendship didn't work out, and we were just two different people, and blah, 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 blah. But moving on was really hard for me, you know, and it took a few months, and those few months were really eye-opening, to be honest. Going through that breakup and that heartbreak, it was really eye-opening. And then I started to watch so many coming out videos in that time, and I remember watching like everyone's coming out video, and I remember specifically Ingrid Nelson, her coming out video. She just said so many things that I understood, and I was like, oh my god, that's me. Like, I feel those things, and I remember just being like, oh my gosh, ding, 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 like checking off all these things on this list that she was like basically like spreading out, and I was like, yes, 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 and yes. It's like, it just never sat right with me. And I was never, like, I would never let myself fully go there, you know? I would never let myself fully go there. And finally, I just, the thought came up again. And I have a very close friend that I knew freshman year, Josh, and the thoughts were coming up in my brain, and I was like, I'm gonna let myself think these things. This was the first time I was like, I'm just gonna let myself think about this, because when the thoughts would come up, I would suppress them before they even were a full thought, and I was like, let me continue this thought in my brain. Let me say this sentence out loud in my brain. Like, let me go there, you know? Let's go there. And I sat on the phone with my friend Josh for maybe 3 hours. I think it was a 3-hour call. And I bawled. And I was just talking to him, and I was telling him all these things and all my feelings. And he was just giving me, like, all these things, and he was, like, you know, talking to me about labels and how some people don't use labels, because I was just so confused, and that was a big help for me. Then, you know, we'll flash forward a bit. I toy with the bisexual thing, and then we get into the actual coming out, and I want you guys to know that coming out to yourself, my God, is the most important part of this whole freaking journey. So if you're in it, coming out to yourself is so important. It is such a big part of this journey. And I remember my friend Josh telling me that he stood in front of a mirror and told himself and looked at himself in the eyes in the mirror and told himself, like, I am gay. And for me, that was, like, crazy hard for me to do before I fully came out. I never really had to come out to my friends. I always was just openly talking to them about this stuff, and I was always openly talking to them and being like, I'm freaking confused, man. And they just slowly, I ended up being very gay, and they just kind of, I mean, I was always gay, but slowly I ended up just coming to this realization, and they totally loved and accepted me, and it was like such a smooth and gentle transition, and I never really had to sit down and like, okay guys, I'm gay, what do you think about this? Like, it was just such a smooth, gentle, amazing thing, and I thank my friends for that so much. But yeah, so coming out to myself, that was probably the hardest of the whole thing. I remember standing in front of the mirror, and I was like, okay, Maya, like, you're just gonna say it. Like, I looked myself in the eye, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna say it. Looking yourself in the eye and, like, saying something of that significance to yourself is so extremely powerful and so extremely hard. I had to try to, I said I am, like, probably 5 times before I spit out the whole sentence. I was like, I am. But I was like, I am gay. And then I collapsed onto the floor. I broke down. It was like a whole mess. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just get it down. Like, oh my God. And it was a whole thing, but it was so good. It was like freaking ton of bricks off the back. Like, so liberating and so great. So when I finally was able to feel strong and confident in this, you know, like, calling myself lesbian didn't really ever feel bad, and I was like, you know, I love this word. You know what? I am a lesbian. And, like, I don't know, it just felt really confident. I was like, yeah, I'm a lesbian, man. Damn. Yes. So I hope to connect with some of you guys, and I hope that helped you. And yeah, I do. I love you guys with every inch of my soul. And I really hope that this helped you. So if it did, please give me a thumbs up. So yeah, if this video did something to your day and made you smile, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And I'll see you guys next Friday with a brand new video. Bye bye.